Hi, it's TAW Unwrapped. I'm Josh Sexton, joined today by Craig Hannan, Mo Stewart and Emilia, Bona to do a bit of a retrospective on Liverpool's summer signings. We have slagged them off on this show before. We haven't really, but we did do a bit of a critical show where we talked about the summer business. So now all is rosy in the garden. We're a bunch of turncoats. We're going to look at it differently. I want to go through them one by one. So we'll start with Jeremy Frimpong to sort of talk about how they've fared recently in this unbeaten run for Liverpool, because I think in most cases it's definitely got more positive. And Mo, I'll start with you on Jeremy Frimpong, because he has showed real value in recent weeks. My only sort of concern with the value that he showed is it possibly not as a right back?
Yeah, but that's kind of been my feeling the whole time since we signed him. It's like, well, what's he gonna do? And yeah, he looks like he's a real talent going forward. He looks like he gives something that we don't have anywhere else in the squad in terms of not only the speed, but the ability and the desire to go on the outside. For some reason, no one else seems to want to do that, but he's making real gains from doing that, getting dangerous balls in. And I think it's almost getting to the point now where our forwards can start to rely on what he's going to do and make their runs accordingly, and then it's going to get better. Crossing accuracy hopefully gets a little bit better. But yeah, it's been positive. He's been making output, goals and assists, which is what you want from a guy who's going to play in the front three. Defensively, yeah, probably still a little bit of a way to go. Like, I mean, particularly now we've not got Connor, you'd hope that if he's going to be able to be a right back for the next 20, 25 games of the season, maybe he shouldn't be getting the business from the Barnsley left winger. But anyway, we're going to keep it positive on the show.
Can't we just sign him? Great.
Honestly, I would be up for that, to be fair. But yeah, it's something that he hasn't had a lot of recent experience in doing, which I think is a common theme for most of these players, is that when they've arrived at Liverpool, we've been mostly asking them to do things that they haven't been doing previously. So it's going to take a while. But he's now starting to make a positive impact in the games, and I think from a confidence point of view, that's definitely going to be a positive.
Yeah, and I still don't hate him like sort of being an option at right back, Emilia. Like I think he actually showed more defensive chops at the start of the season, and then as they played him as an attacker more and stuff, I think it's when you've sort of seen him start to maybe struggle a little bit just in terms of that variance. Like I always think back to when Jurgen Klopp basically blamed himself for Gakpo's lack of development, because he said we just gave him too many jobs to do, and then he felt like he was sort of stuck in between all of them. And I think you've kind of seen that with Frimpong, where I think back to the Community Shield in particular, and think how like well he defended in that game, and in some of those early games he then has the injury, comes back as an attacker. It's kind of not overly surprising to me that he looks like he's just finding his feet again defensively.
Yeah, I'm probably not quite as down on him, and I think my main concern is just managing minutes now, because we're going to need him to do so much more, and obviously we know that recurrent injuries have been an issue, and I think unless we want Dominic Szoboszlai to be playing in multiple places all at once, like we need to know that he is a reliable option and not be running him to the ground. So I
got really sad when they put Szoboszlai to right back against that Cleary lad, and then he just immediately outpaced him. I was like, oh, God. I'm so sorry for Dom.
I think like I think he's been proven to be a good signing more and more as it's gone on. Obviously, like there was that initial display in the Community Shield, and you go, wow, who's he going to be for us? I think he's got better and better. The injuries aside, my only worry is looking longer term now, how we manage those minutes, because it is obviously an issue and a concern. But since he's come back after Christmas, he's been fantastic, like contributing to goals, scoring a fantastic goal, and I think also like learning from mistakes. So like not being quite not assertive enough, but not taking enough chances at Arsenal. People like feeling like opportunities were missed. He's obviously gone into his next fixture and gone, well, that's not happening again. And I really do rate him. I think he's a great signing.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing is, I guess, Craig, is that Bayer Leverkusen, his injury record was actually pretty good. Like he played in a lot of games, Bayer Leverkusen, particularly in the season before he came. So it's been a bit strange that there has been that recurrence of injuries, and maybe that is just an adaptation thing. But you know, Emilia's right. We're definitely going to need to have seen the back of them now, particularly given Conor Bradley's injury.
Yeah, crazy Northern Irish. I mean, I've really liked Frimpong since he come in, and in terms of recently post-injury, I think that what he's done is, in a very predictable Liverpool team, he seems unpredictable. And you know, Mo mentioned the ability to take on a man and beat them on the outside. A couple of games ago, I was sat with Gibbo and I saw him do it. I was like, fuck, I forgot anyone can do that. I forgot you're allowed to do that, because ours haven't been doing that like at all this season. So I know is crossing sort of accuracy. I think I read something that was like 17% or something that was pretty low. But I think given the fact that he's just getting in behind a man and he's not constantly just cutting inside, he's giving them two things to think about rather than just the one. I've been sort of quietly impressed with him, and he seems as a personality. He seems not just on the pitch in terms of what he can inject on it. He seems like a personality who can sort of lift everyone around him, and people enjoy being around, and that's a big thing, particularly during a season like this where it feels like such a slog and it's going to be difficult at times, and and they're going to have to sort of help each other out. So quite excited about him. I think I think right back for Liverpool, the full-back positions are probably potentially the hardest position to play for Liverpool, and I'm not sort of getting on his back if it's going to take him a little bit of time in terms of what he does defensively in that position for Liverpool, because I think for instance Conor Bradley, you saw it at different times this season. Earlier in the season it was taking him a bit of time, then he gets rhythm, and he looks sort of much better. So no, I'm looking forward to seeing what the season brings for him. We know what he can do going forward, and can he sort of stand up to what's needed at right back.
I'm going to stick with you on this one, Craig, because I'm sticking with former Bayer Leverkusen lads. And I remember a moment in pre-season where me and you were watching Florian Wirtz play and just like glide around the pitch and just getting like so sort of excited, like talking about him and sort of looking at each other and like looking at the player who was on the pitch. And I think you're really starting to see that come to the fore now. Like I just think he's been purring in recent weeks, and I think he still showed flashes in the start. Anyway, he was the player the most. I was like, I can see where the green shoots are. Obviously, Ekitike came in and hit the ground running, and we'll come on to talk about him. The others really struggled. I think Wirtz is never one that I was like concerned about, because I don't think he was actually struggling. The flashes were all there. Too many people outside of Liverpool were, of course, focusing on things they shouldn't have been focusing on, like his numbers and things like that. But the numbers are starting to come now anyway. But I just love watching him play football. He's one of those footballers that makes you purr when you watch him as well.
I think given how he performed against Palace in the Community Shield as an example, I just thought he was going to walk into this league and sort of stroll it. And obviously that's naive, isn't it, for a player who's young, who's coming from a different league, new culture, new team, and new surroundings. It's going to take a little bit of time. I think what we were seeing was glimpses. I think what we're seeing now is more of a complete sort of idea of how he's going to impact this team and be key to it. Obviously the numbers that you mentioned there, I think it's something like 6 goal involvements in the past 10 games. So you've really seen since that the assist against Sunderland, he's just like suddenly gone, oh right, okay. It's almost like something's clicked in his brain. I think what surprised me from the off was just how hard he works. Like I hadn't realised that would be a key. That'd be the case. He's obviously not strong in terms of his frame. He's not big and physical, but he's physical in terms of how he's able to get around players and sort of defend for Liverpool from the front. So that's excited me. So I think I can really see how the future looks for Florian Wirtz. Obviously, look, Liverpool as a football team, haven't been performing at their best and haven't been like working as a group in the way that they would have hoped and have in previous seasons. I think when I looked at the list of Liverpool new signings, I looked at almost all of them and thought, if we just signed one of you and added you to the team from last year, the entire outlook would probably be a lot different. But they've come into this like environment where there's been so many factors that have made it difficult for them to come in. So I'm really, really excited about where he can go, because I think what we're seeing is just the beginning, really. Yeah,
Mo, the numbers are now starting to follow on from where they were at the start of the season. I'm kind of a bit torn on this, because I think I've referenced Gini Wijnaldum when talking about Florian Wirtz before, in that Gini would go away and score for his country. It felt like every single time he went away, he came from Newcastle with numbers as well. I don't know if you're just focusing on the wrong things, if you're now expecting numbers to come from Florian Wirtz's game, but there is a part of me that thinks like, well, I just think he can do both. He can give you the industrious side of his game, give you the creative side of his game. I take Craig's point about how the team has kind of stuttered, particularly in an attacking sense in recent weeks, hasn't looked particularly creative, but anything that we have done that's looked in any way swashbuckling or creative, he's been right at the centre of.
Yeah, and I think we have to remember what we're asking him to do. We're not just asking him to come in and play well for Liverpool, we're asking him to come in and be the fulcrum, the by of whom everything goes through. So when you are coming from somewhere different, you are going to take a little bit of adaptation time anyway. But then when you're asking everything to be funneled through you, you're not asking just the player to adapt, you're asking everyone else to adapt to him. And I think one of the things we saw early on in his Liverpool career is that a lot of his teammates weren't sure how and when to get him the ball. So there was only 2 or 3 of them. You look at the game, the stats after the game, it'd be like, well, only 2 or 3 of them actually passed it to him. Now they're all understanding where to get him the ball, how to get him the ball. I think against Arsenal, everybody passed to him at least one time. And most of those passes that he received, he was in their opponent's half. So he's now getting used to it. They're getting used to him. And what we are now seeing is him feeling more comfortable and feeling able to be a bit more relaxed about the situation, because all of the noise that you mentioned about his output previously, like, it hasn't looked like it's affected him. I mean, he is the most stone-faced of stone-faced fellas. Like, if there's a new Terminator movie, he could very much easily play the young
It was doing my head now. Nagelsmann would talk about it every. Obviously, he was getting asked the question, but I was almost like, shut up, because I don't think it's affected him. So just leave it.
No, he's not us. And but in terms of how he goes about the decision making in the later third, there were times early on where you could think maybe he was thinking, well, do I trust you? If I pass it to you, do I trust you to put it away? Or am I going to have to take this myself? Now those things have become natural, like the connection that he's got with Ekitike, I think is the thing that most people are excited about right now, and that's just going to grow and grow and grow. And then you're going to start seeing him having that with other people. And the other thing we have to remember is that he came into a Liverpool side that didn't really operate with a player like him at all. So that adaptation of what he's had to do is probably going to take longer than most people would anticipate it. But yeah, it really feels like we're at that point now where we can really start to see what a Florian versus Liverpool looks like.
Yeah, penny for Harvey Elliott's thoughts watching Wirtz play in their role at the moment. Sorry, Harvey. Like, there's so much that excites me about Florian Wirtz and Emilia, but like, I think one of the best feelings as a football fan is when you get a player like that, you hit on a player like that who's like such a talent, and you know, with the numbers starting to fall now and everything, like the thing that almost excites me the most, even just like, you know, when I'm watching him, is like, oh God, he's still so young. And he'll be in this Liverpool team for so many years, and that's like the most exciting thing for me, is that whatever this Liverpool side looks like in the future, I now can't imagine a future where Florian Wirtz isn't in that team, and that makes me genuinely excited.
It is, and it feels like probably the first time in a long time that we've gotten to watch like an emergence of, not just for him, but partnerships like that with Ekitike, and being like, this is going to be something really special, and we're just watching the start of it now. And we obviously came to the end of an era in a lot of ways, like with a manager and a lot of players leaving, and a real like period of change. And it feels like we're just now starting to see what can be the new era for us building. And I think what you said about a lot changing when he came in, like those sorts of partnerships, they've not really had any chance at all until now to consistently build that kind of, not momentum, but like get on the same wavelength as each other. And that can only happen with time and with practice. And you can really see that happening. And I think, as you say, there's not been like loads to enjoy about watching Liverpool recently, but that has been something that has been really, really enjoyable, and all of the like the creativity and the flair and the excitement that's been on the pitch has been coming from those two working together, but especially from Florian Wirtz. Like the way that you get to watch him just dancing through 3 or 4 fellas and just doing stuff where, yeah, the numbers weren't there and people had opinions about that and loved to make points about it. But I don't think anyone can watch him playing football, even when it was just bursts and moments of brilliance, and not go, he's one of the best footballers in the world and he plays for Liverpool, and we're just watching the beginning of it. So I think we always do it, and like every single season is the same, it'll never change, that you get so hung up on those first few weeks and the numbers and is it worth it and has this been a wrong decision, whatever else. But I don't think you could ever doubt it with him, and now finally the numbers are starting to follow as well, so even people that are really kind of hung up on that can see it as well.
If this signing is going to be the success that we hope it is, like, this has to just be the beginning, is what I would say. So we'll need real consistency, and not just in terms of, you know, an assist here or a goal against Barnsley or whatever. It's like, you know, it's big moments against big teams, you know, in the big games that are going to be coming up towards the end of the season. You know, Champions League, you know, later in the FA Cup, and obviously this like fight for 3rd, 4th, and 5th that we're in, yay. But you know, that'll be where you'll be really judged going forward, and This is a bit of a moot point, but the thing I've thought about him since the beginning of the season is I'd love to see him in a team that builds up faster than we do, because I think that's where you would really see the impact of him, because he's so quick in his thinking. He's 2 steps ahead of you by the time he's even got the ball. He knows where it's going, and he's able to sort of drive Liverpool forward in different ways, whether that's driving with the ball or just through quick thinking and a lovely little touch around the corner. So I would love to see that at some stage.
I think that's why it's down to everyone. It's down to everyone else, like the manager, everyone else on the pitch, to make sure that we're almost building a system that is designed around him, because he's so fantastic and is like a genuinely generational talent, and because he's so young, so there's so much to come. I think it's down to us to build around him, and also like to get him the ball more, like you said, to make sure that we're allowing him to be that brilliant, and make sure that in kind of threatening areas we're giving him every chance that we can.
I also think in the bigger games, in the Champions League games, we're going to be playing against teams who are going to attack us more, which means there's going to be more chance for counter-attacks, which is where all that stuff's going to come. So don't worry, we'll get there.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed. I'll stick with you on this one, Mo, because you mentioned before about, players maybe not necessarily knowing how to play with Florian Wirtz or pass to Florian Wirtz, and that's a good segue into the next player, which is Milos Kerkez, who is starting to look far more assured after a shaky start, really. I think the biggest thing that stuck out to me at first, and where I probably became a little bit critical of him and my head became a bit burnt out in a very sort of quick way, is that there was just no confidence or surety, and that then seeped into other players around him, and that's where it comes back to that point of how you play with him, like the amount of times, and it's kind of that both players and the manager were to blame at the time as well, but the amount of times that him and McAllister were just on top of each other in their position, and it would leave you either so open at the back or would leave you with nothing going forward, and they were just in some like weird no man's land in the middle. Was just genuinely infuriating. But testament to Milos Kerkez. I think he's found a way to make himself thrive in this Liverpool team. McAllister's come to the party as well a little bit, which I think has been helping, and the manager has maybe sorted the kind of structure of the team out, if there's still loads of sort of room to go and improvement to do in the attacking sense. But going both ways, really. I think Milos Kerkez looks massively improved.
I think it's a real testament to his mentality.
Yeah.
It's funny as well, because we talk about his mentality. There's been times in his Liverpool career where people aren't sure he's 100% using his brain a lot of the time. He's a little bit more impetuous, a little bit more instinctive, like he just wants to go and do something. And I think the problem is that he's had a lot more new things to deal with. So of all the players I mentioned before about not necessarily playing how they played with the previous clubs, I think his has been the biggest change, because we all assumed that he was just going to be given the left-hand side, so go on, run up and down, do the thing that you do great for Bournemouth. And he hasn't. Sometimes he's having to play as part of a back three, he's having to do different things in terms of build-up. He's also playing in front of a guy who just doesn't want to pass to him, which doesn't help him at all. But he's been able to fight through all those things. And I think the defensive side of it, where sometimes he looked a little bit naive in how he wanted to go about things, I think what we've seen recently is the benefit of that, because he's a guy who he wants to get close to his attacker. He wants to be physical. He wants to let him know he's there. And sometimes people will kind of take advantage of that, spin away from him, and then he'll be exposed. But sometimes it'll work really, really well. And I think every time it works really well, he gets a bit more confident in himself. And yeah, he's now starting to look like a player who can be make a real impact in this team. And again, I think it's a massive testament to him, because he's had a lot to deal with, and he is still another one who's really young. He's 21, isn't he?
And we've said about players obviously that are having to adapt to a new league, a new country, and all these things. But for him, obviously, there's less change in that sense. But it's such a massive step back, and to be expected to immediately do a job I am the biggest turncoat on this, because I really didn't like him at all, didn't want to see his face. But there's a lot of adaptation to be done there. I think that the confidence and the surety that you said is really apparent now. Against Arsenal, the stats for him against Saka were fantastic. It's more than you could.
I was worried that first one early on. It's like you mentioned where he just got a bit too close to him and Saka spun him, because I was like, oh, please don't let that be the whole game.
Yeah.
Especially because earlier in the season, what I thought he did so well against Madueke at Anfield was he actually just let Madueke have the byline. And he's like, because I know every single time I'm going to be as quick as you and I'm going to tackle you, basically. Yes. So, and that's the thing, Emilia. I guess that there are still going to be these moments of madness. It's just felt in recent weeks like Liverpool have had mad players in the past, Luis Suarez being chief among them, who like can turn their own madness into like positive elements.
Yeah.
And I think you're kind of seeing that with Kerkez. I'm not putting him on a level with Luis Suarez, by the way, but like when there are those moments of madness, it feels like it's keeping opposition guessing as much as it's like keeping his teammates guessing.
Yeah, and we're still learning, aren't we? And so is he. And I think the whole point of this was a retrospective on like the signings as a whole, and I think even the ones that I'm not quite as glowing about, like I am about Wirtz or like I would be about Ekitike, I don't think anyone could say it's not been a good signing. It's just taken quite a bit longer to see that. And also, I think it's probably one area where you still feel like if there'd been a little bit more, maybe we wouldn't be quite as critical. Do you know, like if we'd made some other signings in key areas, maybe we wouldn't be talking quite as much about what he leaves us lacking.
Yeah, fair enough. And I think of all the things that have kind of impressed me the most, Craig, or I guess surprised me the most, really, it is that one-on-one defending. It is the way that he, besides that sort of early challenge against Saka where he did fail, how he just then went again, like Emilia and Mo, I think have both touched on mentality, but the one-on-one defending has been so impressive to me because I think the fullback I thought we were getting from Bournemouth was just kind of flying, and I almost didn't expect him to do any of the tough work going back. But then I think back to the Everton game at Anfield as well, and like to the death in that one, basically he was there in the box like heading away balls and making sure he was in front of his man the whole time, stopping his man getting crossings. I think it was Dewsbury Hall who they had on that side until they brought a sub on late. So they are genuinely key game-winning moments, really, or at least stopping Liverpool losing points, and he's been there and stood up to loads of those challenges.
Yeah, I'm not there with him yet.
Oh, really?
No. Sorry.
So I did the wild cards that way.
I just let you talk there, and I was like, no. I think the Arsenal game was a big improvement. I think there's still moments you see in the Arsenal game, which is the sort of game intelligence thing that I worry a little bit with them about. I agree on the one-on-one, and I think that I agree that he's been sort of massively improved. I think it was a fairly low bar, and that's not me writing him off because he's a young player. He's 22 years old, and so you always have to remember that, and it is a big step up in terms of what's expected, and in terms of the fact that one bad performance or even one bad moment in the game is what a light will be shone on that while you're playing for Bournemouth, and you can make a mistake, but it's okay because if you do well in the next game, it's all forgotten about. Liverpool's not like that. The level's so high in terms of what they want to achieve. I think there's a moment in the Arsenal game where he's galloping forward and he has lots of space and he decides to whip it in when he had all of the space to run into, and it was just a really, really frustrating thing for me. But then the second half, I thought he was excellent. I think we need more time on him, and I think he just needs time. I also think that it's difficult because the left back that we have enjoyed for the past 7-8 years skews everything that I've expected of a left back. Previously, if we signed Kerkez, I'd be like, he's better than Moreno, and he's better than Risa, and he's better than all of these players before. Now we've had the best one, so that's the level that I'm sort of wanting and expecting from these players. And we signed the best one when he's 25 from Hull. Milos Kerkez has got years ahead of him. So this isn't me writing him off. It just, in terms of I'm not entirely sure where his ceiling is at the moment, and whether these sort of things that I'm a little bit worried around is decision making and his intelligence. I think there's maybe a reason why the fella behind him doesn't want to pass to him at different times, but he's got loads of time, and as you said, it's been really encouraging recently where he's been able to build on performances, and you feel as if there's a bit of confidence growing in them now.
Speaking of expectations or bars set by predecessors, Georgie Mamardashvili is the next player that I want to talk about. Probably similar to how Craig feels about Kerkez. I'm not quite there on Mamardashvili yet. He looks a good shot stopper. Like the name that keeps ringing in my head whenever I see him make a save and then do something mad with his feet is Simon Mignolet, and I'm praying he doesn't become Simon Mignolet. And I think that is probably a very harsh assessment. It is, but he just has such a far way to go to impress me with his all-round game, particularly what he does with his feet. And I think he has improved a little bit, to be fair.
Okay, so I'm going to stand up for him a little bit in terms of the play with his feet. I still don't think that we as a team have got used to having a goalkeeper who kicks with the other foot.
I knew you were going to say that.
It's true. It's really obviously true.
I think even the Soboslai thing the night, I'm like, even if you'd have made that back heel to him, you're doing it to his right foot.
And I mean, yeah. Can we just talk about how much I feel sorry? You said you feel sorry for Dom being put a right back. He deserved to be put a right back.
True,
I feel sorry for Mamardashvili because mate, What are you doing? And yeah, we need to be a little bit more appreciative of the difference between the two of them. I think the one thing that I didn't like about him when he first came in was that a lot of his saves weren't out of the danger area. I think that's something that someone said to him, and now that's happening a little bit more. He's been able to push them further away. I think the difficult thing about backup keeper though is that you really don't want them to play. Like in an ideal world, he's not playing at all. He's playing like, what, 4 or 5 games a season. But unfortunately with Ali, he probably is going to play more. And I mean, look, it was great for Queeve Kelleher because it allowed him to develop into the great goalkeeper he is now. But when he first started doing it, we were a little bit like, oh God, where is this guy? What's going to happen here? So I'm hoping that development will happen with him. There are some of the things that you need to be as a goalkeeper in the Premier League. You need to be able to come and claim a ball in amongst the tall trees of the defenders. And he does that well. You need to be able to stop shots. He does that well. Everything else, I think you can almost give him a bit more time to deal with because those 2 bits. I mean, the troubles we've had with set pieces, for example, it would be a lot easier to deal with set pieces if we got a goalkeeper and just come out and just grab the ball every time. And I think that he can be that goalkeeper. So I think there are positives in his game now and there are things he needs to work on. But again, the hope is that we don't see too much of him.
Yeah, I guess he has the sort of unenviable task, Emilia, of following the man that we all love the most in maybe the entire world. The only sort of thing I've thought in recent weeks is that Alisson has been completely mad with his feet. Me and Mo and Andy were speaking about before the show, and maybe there is a bit of a sort of lingering injury thing there, or at least a plan with his injury to sort of manage that. Because definitely felt at times like when his hamstring has gone, it's because someone has given him like a hospital pass. But I don't know. I'm almost wondering if because we're now seeing the back end of Ali's career, as he kind of fades. Fuck, just allow me. I'm going heavy on this goalkeeper one. Sorry. Because we're kind of seeing the back end of this now, the twilight of his career. I'll say it in a nicer way because everyone loves Twilight. We're almost, our expectations will kind of drop, and as they do, maybe it makes it easier for the next person who's coming up.
No.
Okay.
No, he's got to be. Much in the way that you don't question like floods or hurricanes. I don't question the other thing. I don't know. I think you're right that you don't want to see him, and it's a very unenviable task. And I think Kelleher won a lot of hearts by getting to be the go-to keeper in certain competitions and fixtures where you get to watch him like have his moment of build and become like a hero for us. And I think with the increasing kind of likelihood of injuries, that we're only seeing Mamardashvili in fixtures where, or we're seeing him more in fixtures where you're going, don't you fucking do it, because you're already on pins because Ali's not there. You don't want to see him. You don't want him playing. So I feel like he's already up against it in terms of our perceptions of him, which is exactly what you said. But I don't have a load to say about him other than just that, like, I guess give it time. And it's hard to assess someone when you're only seeing him when you don't want to see him, or in competitions that maybe we don't care about as much. I say that they're the
I loved Kelleher, like absolutely adored him. But I think the difference was that he was a young player that got the opportunity to be a young player and grow into the team at a time when there was real success. And you forget that there was like a game at home where we draw 5-5 of Arsenal or 4-4 or something. Like there's loads of goals. If you look back at those early cup games, there's loads of goals being conceded. Even going to, I think of the season where Minamino and Jota and all the Leicester game, and there's a lot of goals getting conceded in those games. But what he gets is big moments and penalty shootouts because he's brilliant in penalties, and then he gets to grow and build the confidence and become a Liverpool player and play at different times when Ali's injured. I think Mamardashvili's had like a really difficult time to come in because, like the other players, he's come into a team that isn't functioning well, and therefore is more open both in transition and just fucking generally a lot of the time. So I think that's a difficult place to be as a keeper that comes in, particularly for the fee that he's come in. I think I've seen enough to know that he can be a good keeper. It's whether he has enough to be a brilliant keeper and be a brilliant first team keeper for us. But he's got time on that. Hopefully Alisson doesn't leave at the end of this season. Jesus,
it's a shame for him that his best moment came in a game that we got pumped 3-0 away at Man City. Because, like you say, the big moments that you remember, he saved a penalty against Haaland. But no one remembers that because we lost that game. But hopefully he'll have some kind of more decisive moments in games, hopefully in the FA Cup, and so Ali can still play in league games, and that will build his confidence, that build everyone's confidence around him. But I get the sense that the defenders do have trust in him, and I think that's a really important part for his career going forward, because you've seen it before when you mentioned Mignolet. The thing that I always think about with Mignolet is that the defenders started playing differently because they didn't trust him to do the job that he was there to do in certain areas. I don't think we're there with Mamardashvili, so hopefully we'll be able to develop.
Yeah, well, from one player that I think the jury is still out onto the one that I think the jury is pretty resounding in their verdict of with Hugo Ekitike, Emilia. He's just an absolutely brilliant player. Like, again, it comes back to kind of Florian Wirtz thing, but because the numbers have been there since the start, and that all-round play in terms of just how he fits into Liverpool has been there since the start. Like, another player that I absolutely love watching play, and he did have that little lull post, all the madness with the red card, and the madness with the red card kind of like maybe threw my mindset off a little bit with him in the sense that I was like, oh, please just don't be Darwin Núñez.
Yeah, don't be a silly
please,
Billy.
yeah, please don't be someone that I'm going to like be fuming that your brain is just not wired correctly all the time. But he just looks already back to his best, which has majorly reassured me.
Yeah, I think he's quietly the most important player for Liverpool at the minute, which I know, like, obviously Dominic Szoboszlai has been asked to be so versatile and do so many different things and pull us out of a lot of sticky situations. But actually, like, the amount of pressure that is on Ekitike, because, you know, Isak's not about, there's not many other options. We're asking him to do a hell of a lot immediately upon entering, and he doesn't seem to carry any of that pressure at all. Like, he looks like he's just having a fantastic time and loving playing for Liverpool. And, like, as I said, there's been points that have felt turgid this season, and, like, that's never the case. When you're looking at him, it feels exciting and, like, creative, and he's an absolute grafter. And like, into wherever you put him and whatever you're trying to shoehorn him into, however we're playing, he just makes it work with no fuss, without looking like it's like hard graft for him. And I just think he's fantastic. Like, the link up that we were talking about with Wirtz is so exciting. It's the beginning of something. I just think he's going to be such an incredible Liverpool player.
Yeah, I want to come to you on this first, Mo, because I don't really know where my expectations were at with Ekitike before he came in. I can't say that I'd watched a lot of him at Frankfurt before that, but I think what surprised me most is the intelligence and the physicality. Like, what the things that you see when you're watching the highlights of him and stuff is that the technique is there, the pace is there. He looked really like raw to me when he was at Frankfurt, and then suddenly, like, he's coming to Liverpool, and I don't think he looks that raw. I think he looks pretty polished.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I think where he looked like a younger player was some of his heading, and I think even within that we started to see improvements. Obviously there was that one game that we won't talk about against Leeds, but I just think that the thing that I was most impressed about was his adaptability, because at Frankfurt, sure, in his last season, the first half of the season, it was him and Marmoush, but Marmoush was kind of the main guy. He was kind of like the facilitator. And then Marmoush went to City. In the second half of the season, he was the main man, and he took to it straight away. So I was thinking, if we get that guy, then we'll be great. But Emilia is right. The pressure on a striker is so much higher than on anyone else, because it's all about the numbers. Like, in the outside world, you can play a fantastic game of football. You can be pressing fantastically. You can pass to all your teammates. You can do everything that the manager's asked you to do before the game. But if you're not scoring goals, the outside world doesn't care. The pressure's going to be on you. Why aren't you scoring goals? Why aren't you scoring goals? Goals, goals, goals. Well, guess what? He is scoring goals. He is doing that job for Liverpool. And to me, this point about him being the most important person in the team, I genuinely think that of all of the players we've got right now, we look the most different without him.
100%, yeah. Which is mad, because he's not been there that long. Like, he's a young lad. The expectation on him coming in wasn't as great as others. But my God, do you miss him when he's not there?
I was thinking before when you said it, like, Szoboszlai is almost the difference between, like, us losing games to drawing them. Ekitike feels the difference between us drawing them to winning.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, we're going to come on to talk about Isak, but there was all that talk at the beginning of the season. Well, why do Liverpool need both? Why do Liverpool need both? It's just greedy, blah, blah, blah. Can you imagine if we hadn't signed Ekitike, we just signed Isak? Can you imagine where we'd be right now? Oof. Doesn't bear thinking about.
Yeah, I don't want to imagine that very much. And the manager has got some big calls to make in that sense, Craig, because once Isak is back, I don't think he can just go back to this idea that, like, oh, well, I don't want to, I don't want to have both of them on the pitch at the same time because I'm trying to sort of manage one's fitness or whatever. Like, Ekitike should be the first choice. And if he's going to do one or the other, he might just have to start starting Ekitike and have Isak as a second choice.
I don't think it's a might. I think it's like he doesn't have a choice. Ekitike is the boy.
Yeah.
Like if you look at all the evidence that we've seen so far, like all of the things everyone said is true. I've been so surprised by just how good he is from the off, and I always have this thing when Liverpool sign a new striker that if they don't, and it's just in my head by the way, if they don't score in that first game, like, and score from the off, then like it's gonna be difficult, and they're not gonna quite reach the heights you think of Suarez, and you think of, and Torres is a second, but like with him, he does it straight away. You're like, this is what I'm about, and I agree with you. I'm not entirely sure what I thought we were getting. I think, given that we thought it was either or and we all wanted Isak, I think we weren't all that excited about getting him, and then we get him, and then he's just brilliant in terms of everything he offers on the pitch. But I think in terms of his mentality, he just looks like a fella who can carry the weight of a number 9 shirt at Liverpool Football Club. He looks like someone who, in the same way that Hannan does, as an example, can miss a chance and then will score the next one. No problem. Doesn't get in his own head. I liked the sort of fiery nature of him, but also it's not the Nunez levels. It's not like boiling over. It's just it's impacting his team, and it's adding something to the way in which he plays rather than taking away from it. And he just looks as if he's got goals in his boots, and that's ultimately the sort of key thing here. I think he's going to explode at the World Cup. I really do. I think that he's going to be really important in terms of, he's had a brilliant start. I think there's more to come from him in the next 6 months. If Liverpool are going to achieve anything this season, really they need him scoring goals, and he will be the. We're talking about Wirtz as the fulcrum, maybe further down the line, but like it feels to me like Ekitike is the main fella. Like that's who we're building the team around, because he's the one that's going to score the goals. And I think him and Mbappe are going to have fun together at the World Cup, and then coming back and we've got this like top 5 striker in the world. Genuinely, I think that's his level already. And there's still more to come from him. It's brilliant. I keep watching him and thinking I see Fernando Torres, and then I see a bit of Robbie Fowler, and then I see a bit of Jota, and then I see a bit of all of these strikers that I've like loved through my time supporting Liverpool. He seems to have a little bit of each of them, and then you're looking and going, oh, and there's a bit of Thierry Henry there that we never quite got at Liverpool, but like we're getting now.
Yeah, well, that's the clip, by the way, because you made me want to watch him again immediately. So I want to give an honourable mention to Giovanni Leone, because he looked great in the minutes before the injury. So fingers crossed he is recovering well. I'm enjoying that he just gets stuck in on Instagram still with his teammates and stuff. That's nice, isn't it? Ekitike's got a very good Instagram as well.
God, great.
It must be said.
All of his madness can be out there. We don't need it on the pitch. Just keep like however many accounts you need, mate. Just keep them coming.
And the club's going, oh yeah, fine.
It was the game where he didn't play, and then he posted this, and it's just this explosion in front of him, and he's just sat in a chair. It's so funny.
Well, we'll move on to the person who we're, I guess, hoping in the future will become his strike partner. We'll try and keep this one a sort of little bit brief, because, I mean, again, there's probably not too much to say. But Alexander Isak, I'll come to you first on this, Mo, because the early fitness issues, I think, definitely led to some early disappointment. It felt to me like he was one that burnt heads out by not even really being there, like a sort of inconspicuous in his absence kind of thing. And then, the injury is freak. I feel really sorry for him in that sense, because it looked like it was maybe just a moment where it would start to click, or at the very least, our expectations had kind of dropped.
Well, that moment that he scores that goal, that is him. That is the Alexander Isak that we thought we were getting, and we saw it for like 30 seconds and then it was gone again. So yeah, frustrating, but obviously you must understand this is just as frustrating for him. He would have known. He would have, after working so hard to get out of Newcastle, going through all of that and allowing people to talk shit about him all that time, the absolute last thing he wanted was to not start his Liverpool career well. He wanted to hit the ground running to prove all those things wrong. So it must have been really frustrating for him as well. But I do think that what's happened so far has actually increased the pressure on him for when he comes back. Like, the beauty of Ekitike means that we can almost afford to say, don't rush back.
Yeah.
Like the one thing we haven't seen from you yet is 100% fit Isak. So let's just make sure that when you come back, that's what we get. Because I've spoken to different people, I've spoken to other former Premier League strikers and stuff like that, without name dropping, and they all look at him and say, he's not fit. Like, at all the points in his Liverpool career, he's not fit. He doesn't trust himself to do those things. So let's get that back, and then we can start assessing him. One thing I would say, though, he is in the prime of his career, but he's not like at the end of the prime. He's at the beginning of the prime. So there's still time. I think about Robin van Persie, who was at his best for what, 28 to 31, 32? That was probably his best years. Like, that's where Isak's about to enter. So there is time for him to recover. I think what you were saying before about the fact that people want to assess it now. They want to say, oh, well, this is a good sign, this is a bad signing, regardless of all that kind of thing. I think he is one where you're going to say, look, his Liverpool career is going to be more than 1 year, regardless of what happens. So we're going to have time to properly assess it. And as I say, what's happened so far has been a real shame for him and for us. But having Hugo around does soften the blow considerably. So yeah, Alex, take your time and then come back firing, mate.
And the thing is, I guess, Emilia, is that he had just started to hit his stride in terms of those numbers. And there's part of me that wonders if that was ever in doubt. Like the thing I kept saying, even when he was out injured, and I was kind of getting frustrated with the fact that he still wasn't playing, was like, I still don't have any doubts about him when he does come back, because I still think he's going to be like a 20-goal-a-season striker. And I don't know if we'd have ever got to that stage without the leg break, but it feels like there was a chance. And that was quite nice.
Yeah. I was really short-sighted and petulant about it, and was going, this is obviously not what we thought it was going to be, and this is stupid. And
Doesn't help when you're losing games, I don't think.
No, but I was a real baby about it in a way that was like so short-sighted. And it is unfortunate, and I think like as part of being a baby, I wasn't kind of factoring in how much of the mental toll or how exhausting it must have been for him, that whole thing. Like mentally, in addition to the lack of a pre-season and like the kind of the physical issues around it and not being fit. Yeah, it's crap for him and it's crap for us. And I think it's like the inverse of what we've had with Ekitike, where the expectations were sky high. Like, I was so excited. And really, unless you come in on your first game and like set the world on fire, it's really hard not to have people be a bit wobbly about it and to kind of disappoint a little bit. But what we saw was so far from what we were expecting, and just when we were starting to get there, it was taken away from us. And I think you're right, there's almost no point even thinking about it until we're looking at a point where he's coming back, and then basically just resetting and going, right, let's judge you now, like the player that you're going to get to be, having been through this, come back from it, and like we start now. Yeah. I don't think any of us will do that, but like it would be nice to essentially like wipe the slate clean and go, what Liverpool player are you going to be from now on?
Yeah, and I think that's part of almost the problem with him, Craig, in terms of how he's been judged, is that like I don't think the player that we've got is the one that I was expecting us to get. Like it felt to me like the idea I built him ahead of him was that whenever I'd seen him play for Newcastle, he kind of was like a focal point of the attack. It wasn't just that like he was the move ender. It felt sometimes like he would start some moves and be more involved in the play. And maybe we're just not going to get that at Liverpool. Maybe it is going to look so different. And with someone like Florian Wirtz, someone like Ekitike, who I think because Ekitike works so hard, you can almost imagine a world where it's like, well, Ekitike is the one who does all the running, and Isak's just the one who basically sticks it in the goal whenever Ekitike is not in the position to do so.
Yeah, it's hard, and that'll be a real challenge for whether it's Slot next season or another manager, whoever it is. That'll be a real challenge, because we've now mentioned sort of three players that would need to be the focal point, and for the other two, it feels like they can be part of a they can be part of a machine, and for Isak, it feels like very much like he's going to be just the goals, like he's just the output, and I think watching him, obviously, look, he's not been fit. I think what's been jarring for me is that we're so used to watching, Firmino and the way he played that role, and then even players like Jota and even someone like Nunez, who, like, at different times didn't have the mentality or the level that we expected, or the output or the goals. But you saw how well he worked and how he was able to sort of, and with Isak, it's not really that. It's more of a Haaland, where it's like, I'll stay in these positions, and then whenever the chance comes, I'll put them in the goal. And I think the West Ham goal is actually the one where I look at and go, that was Isak. Wait, that's who we've signed, because it's a much harder chance than what it looks. And he puts it right in the corner. There's no fuss, no problem. Does a celebration, and that's it. I'm excited for him to come back, obviously, because I'm excited to see him play football for Liverpool and hopefully score some goals for Liverpool. I think it's going to be a challenge to sort of, for whoever the manager is, to get him into the team in a way that functions around him and doesn't see Liverpool sort of fall down in all areas, if that makes sense.
I'll tell you what, though. That winner in the FA Cup final against Newcastle coming off the bench is going to hit like that.
And you just feel like you feel like maybe that's what you needed. Like, he obviously gets the Spurs goal, and it's such a shame what happens, because there was a big run of fixtures there where you feel like, you know, if he gets that goal and then he probably gets another one, and then you just feel as if what he needs is a big goal in a big game, and it sets the whole thing alight. Obviously now what we're hoping is, are Sweden in the playoffs for the World Cup?
Yes,
if they are,
yeah.
we hope they don't make it, because you know, what we want is for him to get back sort of before the end of the season, a few games in, have a proper summer that he didn't have last season, and then he's raring to go, because like I say, if Ekitike goes far in the World Cup, he might come back late, and then there's Isak's chance.
Yeah. Turns out we're all hate watching Sweden. Who'd have thought that? But we're more positively watching all these Liverpool players in recent weeks. Football's fickle, isn't it? We were had our minds made up on a couple of these lads earlier in the season, but much more softened on them now. Hopefully the future is bright for all of them. Nice one to everyone in the room. Up the Reds.